Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, currently on special leave, faced tough questioning at the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into Corruption, Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System over his decision to disband the Political Killings System, while simultaneously establishing a new unit targeting taxi violence in the Eastern Cape. Mchunu instructed SAPS National Commissioner Fanny Simola on 9 December 2024 to form a specialized team to tackle spiraling taxi violence and extortion in East London and Butterworth. The directive was issued in the same month that he shut down the PKCC, a move that has since sparked allegations that he sought to shield criminal networks benefiting from political assassinations. The commission, chaired by retired Justice Mbuyiseni Mahlanga, scrutinized why Mchunu dismantled one high-profile task team, only to create another with a similar mandate. Testifying on Friday, Mchunu defended his action by citing a 2019 SAPS work study that recommended the establishment of a permanent murder and robbery unit as a more efficient alternative to standalone teams such as the PKCC. According to Mchunu, absorbing the PKCC's functions into an established unit would improve investigative capacity while reducing the additional funding and staffing requirements associated with keeping the team separate. However, commissioners pressed him on why, if specialized teams were inefficient, he had authorized a new task team specifically for the Eastern Cape. On Thursday, Mchunu had argued that maintaining a task team dedicated to political killings risked creating a false hierarchy of murders, suggesting all murder cases deserved equal investigative attention. But on Friday, his explanation evolved. He told the commission that the Eastern Cape Taxi Violence Task Team was designed as a short-term intervention aimed at reinforcing, not replacing, the province's murder and robbery units during a surge in violence. He said this is a team to go and work with or reinforce murder and robbery in the Eastern Cape. They are not there to deal with societal categorization in the way KwaZulu-Natal was in 2018. Back then, councillors were being targeted, so it was a specific category. Here you are dealing with violent killings of drivers, taxi owners, or whoever was affected at the time. Mchunu insisted that once stability returned, members of the Eastern Cape task team would resume their normal duties. He maintained that the core issue with the PKTT was that it had evolved into a semi-permanent body operating parallel to the murder and robbery unit, a structure he viewed as inefficient and unsustainable. His explanations, however, did little to stem concerns from the Commission, which is probing whether his directive to disband the PKCC was driven by legitimate restructuring goals or by improper motives. Mchunu also told the commissioners that the brown envelope he handed contains details of the PKCC's alleged crimes. He said, I appeal favorably to the Commission to listen to those people that I submitted, the 8 names, so that the Commission can know and determine whether my assessment was actually correct as to be part of what would have influenced me to write the directive. The Commission had advised him to seek advice from his legal team after revealing the existence of the allegations against the PKTT members. Mchunu accepted his lawyer's advice and said, I could not write that because if I wrote that, that would mean I would be breaching confidentiality, that these people contacted me and made reports based on confidentiality arising from their security. Mchunu stated that his office received numerous complaints and reports from civil society, actors, whistleblowers, members of the SAPS, Parliament and the public, and that these reports raised concerns about human rights abuses by members of the PKTT, governance failures affecting the various temporary and ad hoc task teams, including but not limited to the PKTT. According to Mchunu, the message reported were not that simple, and that in the first place, a person comes to you in confidence and then says, I'm afraid and I have fears for my life, but I trust you. I'm going to share with you 1, 2, 3. Konu said he knew one of the case of someone who wrote to the National Commissioner General for Masimula but did not inquire whether Masimula responded. And said I discussed with Advocate Vusi Pikuli and we resolved that a possible option is an inquiry, because if these things are true, they are quite grave matters, not just of HR. There are issues of security and there are alleged murders in them as well. Konu said I had no reason, even without verification, to doubt that, but I accepted that there would need to be a platform that verifies. But they were serious enough, and I'm honest with the commission, serious enough, detailed enough with anecdotes to convince me that indeed they are serious and they need to be processed by a particular way. He added that there is a member of parliament who wrote to his ministry and his matter was then processed in a particular way. The commission identified the MP as the National Coloured Congress's Fadile Adams. Among Konu's reasons for the disbandment of the PKTT on 31 December 2024 are unclear reporting lines, overreach, duplication of functions, and strain on SAPS financial resources.
When would those people have raised those issues? When did they raise those issues with you?
They exactly fall in the category of 71, where I say during the latter part or half of 2024. That is after we got appointed, shortly after.
So all of them is before your decision?
Yes.
Before the 29th of December?
Yes. They called, others went up to an extent of requesting private meetings or confidential meetings. And I did hold such meetings with them.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Minister, in your disbandment letter, do you mention these complaints and these human rights violations? Do you say in your disbandment letter, I've decided that the PKTT should be disestablished because I have received complaints, some of which include allegations of human rights abuses?
Now, in the letter, I didn't include details. I think on all three directives that I issued, except maybe in a very high level kind of thing. But when I wrote this, I did not particularly indicate any detail. It was just high level, and I was relying that.
Even at a high level, surely you can say, I have serious concerns about human rights violations being perpetrated by the PKTT. I no longer think this group should exist because of that reason.
Yes, I could, but I didn't.
What's your take on this one, people? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more news.